Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is James Weeks. I'm the author of the book Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. I help people with strategies for emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, and financial wellness. To learn more about me, you can visit acrossthekingsriver.com. Today, I'm joined again by a special guest who was a guest as well late last year. Her name is Simone Author, and she's uh, one of my Caribbean sisters from the island of Barbados, and she's also a spiritual medium. So today we're here to talk about one, her gifts, an upcoming workshop that she has called um, what's it? Knowing Your Love Languages. And so she's going to talk about the connection with ancestors, love languages, and how we can all learn better how to receive these messages. So, Simone, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to sit with you, Baba. Thanks again for inviting me here. I was a little surprised, but just excited. Thank you.
All right. Well, so I wanted to ask you before we go into the topic about the love languages and what you mean by that, um, as vehicles for people to connect with ancestors. I was wondering if you could tell us about how you discovered your gifts, how you could if you could take us back to the moment when your gifts started to unfold. If you could share that with us.
Yes, it was so funny. I was talking about this a few weeks ago with one of my spiritual daughters. I've kind of starting to embrace this role of having spiritual children. And so I told her that I left home one Sunday afternoon and I went to a spiritual Baptist church, preparing myself to be baptized. This church is called Isaiah's Temple of Mount Hope. It's in East New York, Brooklyn, and the leader is Dr. Archbishop Von Jean. Is a woman who leads this church, and she is from Jamaica. And she and I had developed a relationship, and I was visiting her church. And then one day I went to her and I said, "You know what, Mother, I think I'm going to baptize. For some reason, I'm sensing that this is something that I need to do." Plus, at the time, I was having some really rough challenges. And so, Sunday I got dressed and I went to the service, and I thought, we'll just drive down to Coney Island Beach and dip in the water 3 times and roll out, and we're good to go. But as you know, people of color and who practice these African traditional religions slash practices, nothing is ever short in terms of time. So we have to go through for folks to understand this ritual of sitting in the mercy seat. This is where you're pleading your case as to, why you should take part in this baptism, and also for you to really sit with yourself and see if this is something that you have to do. And this is a ritual you do like a few weeks before you actually baptize. So anyhow, I'm in front of the altar, and I am I started to moan and groan. It was so hot, it's summertime. What am I doing here? I could be hanging out with my friends. And then all of a sudden I saw my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and she looked at me and she told me it's about time. And that's where this gift that I have manifested. Just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the midst of all of that, I'm boohooing and crying and realizing that I can hear her and I can see her. So I recognize I had two, right? I can hear and see. And then following the days and weeks following, getting accustomed to this gift, because I am now in total shock that I can see and hear dead people. That's how I used to describe it in the beginning. I don't describe it like that now. And then I realized I was tasting food and I was feeling their energy and I was smelling them. So all 5 of my senses became heightened on that day to allow me to communicate with those who had passed on. And in my teachings and in my readings and in my conversations with people whose gifts they're trying to figure it out, I tell them, be grateful. You only got one, you only got two. On that Sunday, I got all five, six. How many of them we have? I got the main five. I got all of them. And my life was never the same since then.
Wow. Um,
Mhm.
so when you said your grandmother said it's about time, what do you feel your grandmother meant by that statement?
That I was now coming into my spiritual life.
I see.
Yeah. And this was a woman, was a staunch Christian. You know, she was an Anglican. She went to church at Christ the King, right here in Barbados. I was baptized there. I was confirmed there. My mom and I, we just got, some pictures and stuff that belonged to her. And we found a picture where she was a picture and a certificate where she was honored for 10, serving the church for 10 years. And this was back in 1980 something. So, and she was part of the Mothers Union. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. You have the mothers of the church dressed in all white and they have their services and everything. So for her to show up in that space at that time, it was wild to me. And the folks who know the spiritual Baptist faith, they still follow the word of God, the word of Jesus Christ. The Bible is entwined in their service. But then there's still the element of Africa. They have the drums, they have the burning of the incense, they have the rituals of libation of the water in the four corners, right? So when I got there and she was there, I felt as if from the beginning she orchestrated me get into that space under the leadership of my spiritual mother, Dr. John, and everything was in divine order. So she needed to have me in a safe space at a particular time. And then she was like, well, it's about time. I've been waiting here. Like she had that energy, been waiting here for you. And you just all over the place. And then she just started to talk and talk and talk. And then it was like, I looked behind her, like literally I tucked my head and I saw a long line of other dead people I knew. So yeah, and I'm grateful. I want to, honor my spiritual mother, Dr. Vonnie Jean, because months and years after that, she helped me manage this gift because I
Wow.
had no idea how to live with this thing, right? Because after that, once you become a portal, right? Like all these other entities, oh my God, Simone, she can hear us, she can see us, she can taste us, she can feel us. Let's go and talk to her. So I had many, nights up, mornings up, like I couldn't function, and she had to help me through that, and I'm grateful.
Wow. Wow. Great.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the love languages that you, because this workshop is coming up where you talk about, you're going to be teaching people about their love language. What do you
Mhm.
mean by love languages? For those that don't know, could you tell us what you mean by the love language? You say everyone has a love language that
Yeah.
that's dominant.
Yeah.
Could you
So
talk about-
this is how I look at it, as your way of your ancestors loving you and you loving them, right? And that incorporates communication, how they're going to communicate with you and how you're going to communicate with them, how you're going to understand each other, right? So we're in these enlightened stages now where everybody wants to be able to see or hear the ancestors, and some of them miss when they are feeling them, when they could smell them, or when they could taste them, right? And those are some of the key things too, in which ways, your ancestors may be trying to talk to you. If you smell a cologne or perfume or bread or something that reminds you of your ancestor, or your grandmother used to bake the bread, or your grandfather who would wear Old Spice cologne, that's a trigger. That's a flag that they are around. They're trying to get your attention. But if you're just focused on hearing them and seeing them, you're going to miss that. And they may be showing up in a space where they're trying to tell you, I need you to pay attention to this thing. I need you to pay attention to this person. So they're showing up in your smell. You could be in a job interview. And that smell may be coming from the person you need to speak directly to, because this person may not be sure if you're fitted for the job. And your ancestors show up there in the terms of a smell and says, look at this person, because you're smelling Old Spice coming from there. So granddaddy's in the midst. He might be telling you, pay attention to John Doe right here. This is the person who's going to sign off for you to get this job. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're so focused on one thing. I need you to understand what are your 3 top ways of communicating with your ancestors and what that is going to look like. Right? And be able to sit with that and be comfortable with it and not be trying to fetch other things that may not belong to you. Right? I need you to be able to feel them in your body. You know, if you feel warm inside, that may be the hug your mother used to give you. Well, this feels like mommy, she's here, if your mom has passed. Right? Or you may start to feel cold, and you start to remember the time you felt this way when you were with this particular person who is now passed on. Right? So when you're able to identify how they're trying to love you, how they're trying to connect with you, these are one of the ways. And we kind of break that down into the clairs, where we have the clairvoyance, the clairsentience, the claircognizance, all these things we're going to discuss in the workshop. But basically what it is just our 5 senses, to be able to hear them, smell them, see them, taste them, and feel them.
Okay, so for people who are not familiar with the terms like clairsentience and clairvoyance, how would you describe those things? And claircognizance, how would you explain it to them?
Right. So we will break it down as everybody's familiar with clairvoyance. That's the ability to see. So you're able to see the shapes or forms and able to describe exactly what you are seeing, either with your third eye or your mind's eye. I know for me, I'm able, they kind of connect with me so I can see like facial stuff with them. So if they have a mole, or how their hair, usually how they wear their hair, if they're bald, if they had dreads, if they used to, wear their hair in a bun. Or I'd be able to see a particular piece of jewelry if they used to wear a particular piece of brooch. I remember this young lady, her mom used to come to me all the time. We were friends. Her mom used to show up, and her mom used to tell her about the way how I would know her mom is here, with, to communicate, is she will show me a brooch, a special brooch that her mother always wore. And I was like, oh, your mother is here because she's showing me the brooch. And then the conversation would start. Right? So that's when we talk about seeing, that's what we mean. Clairsentience is clear feeling. If you feel them around you. Again, you may feel like someone may be touching you, or you may feel cold, or you may feel warm, or you may feel loving, or you may feel angry. Like a feeling that reminds you of that person. Right? And then we go to claircognizance. This is clear knowing, just knowing that they're there. It's feeling like something is around. Something has shifted. The energy has shifted. Right? That's the clear knowing. And then we go into the clairaudience, which is one of my favorites, because that's hearing. I remember a time I was with a friend of mine. And we were at home, and I started singing this Lou Rawls song. I don't know if you know the song. I can't sing, but it says, "You'll never find a love like mine." Right. So I'm singing this song, And I stopped myself. I'm like, why am I singing this song? And I couldn't figure it out. And then I continued saying it. And he looks at me. He said, "Simone, why are you singing that song?" I said, "I don't know." I just asked myself that question. I says, "Why?" I said something facetious after that, but I won't say it here. He said, "Because that was my mother's favorite song." So clearly she was around, right? And she wanted him to know that, right? And she was using me as a conduit by letting me hear that song and singing it and singing it. And him recognizing something was moving because he's aware of my gift. And he let me know. We also have clairsentience, and that's clear smelling. I did a reading on Sunday with this guy from the Caribbean, and I knew that one of his ancestors was present for the reading because I could smell the bread. I could smell the sweet bread. And I said to him, and then I was smelling it, but I also was seeing the oven where she was baking this sweet bread. So I said to him, I says, your grandmother used to bake bread outdoors. She had an outdoor oven, and I'm seeing this outdoor thing. And his face just lit up. He said, yes. And I said, I could smell the bread. I could smell it. And I could taste it too. So that brings us to clairgustance, where you're able to taste. And you use all of these things to know when your ancestors is around. I don't like sardines, but I know if I taste it via the smell, I'm like, okay, somebody is here, and they want sardines. Because sometimes that is a way to your ancestors let you know what they want to eat. What you got to offer them, what you're going to put by the ocean, or you're going to put by the tree, or you're going to put on your ancestral altar. Right? So all these things are connected, and that is where this discussion is going to happen. How you can recognize when they are showing up for you.
Great. So in your experience working with people, what would you say are maybe the most dominant love languages that people tend to have, if you would say, from what you've observed?
Feeling.
The feeling.
Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some of them miss it because they want to hear them or they want to see them. And it's the voice thing for them, because they'll be like, Simone, I want to hear her again. And you can understand that. I want to hear her again. I want to hear him again. I want to see him again. And that is not for you. And it may not be for you at this time. It may be for you at a later time. Right? And then we also have to consider the ancestors' energy as well. Do they want to be seen? Or do they want to be heard? Right? Some of them, I've had instances where they show up and they're like, I don't believe in what you're doing, but I'm just let her know I'm here, I'm fine, and they leave. They go. They're like, I don't understand this reading thing. And I don't know if other mediums have had that experience, but I have, where they look at me and they say, okay, this is my child here. This is, just let her know I love her. Kiss, kiss. I'm out of here, and they leave. They don't want to communicate by being heard or being seen, right? And I have to respect that. I have to respect that, because and some of them are not ready to. Even the years they have passed on, they're like, they come in the space and they're bawling, crying. They're like, we weren't ready to leave, or we see what's going on with you, we're going to try to help. Or they come asking for forgiveness. I have had situations where the person who I'm reading was abused, and their abuser shows up. Right? How do you handle that? And I can see the person, because I'm like, wait, this person feels a little odd. I don't like the energy too much. They're looking very solemn, like this heaviness of forgiveness. And when I describe it, the person will say, that's the person who sexually abused me. Trigger warning, please, for those who are listening. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want us to do here? And of course, they wanted me to shut it down, and it gets shut down immediately. So imagine me being the portal for that, how I then have to take care of myself. And that's another thing we will have to discuss. If you want to be able to communicate with your ancestors, just know there's a possibility other entities can pull up too. How do you manage and clean yourself with that? So, yeah.
Wow. Great. As I work with people, but I've been working with people now for like 10 years doing readings, mostly divination. One thing I often hear from people is they feel like they're not getting messages from their ancestors, or they feel like, messages aren't the messages that they hope to receive from their ancestors are not clear to them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel it's mostly a case of them overthinking, or or just not trusting what it is that they're receiving?
All of the
Mm-hmm.
all of the above. And sometimes they're looking for things to be one way, right? And then they miss everything else that is around them. I have a young lady who comes to me too. We started the process of trying to identify, her mom. And she came up with this strategy. She sat down one day and she said, um, Mom, anytime I call on you, I want you to show up to me. I think she picked a bird, a hummingbird or a dragonfly or something like that. And that started to happen to her when she sit outside. But whoever the insect or whatever she wanted to identify to let her know that her mother was there started to show up, right? So you also have to trust the process and trust the communication and trust that what you are feeling, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting is what it is, and not some sort of mind games that are going on. Stop having these big expectations, right? I've had to talk to a few people. You want this to be like some Big Bang Theory or something. Relax. You expect them to come in loud when this person in real life was quiet, right? You want them to come at night when they were a morning person, right? So work with the energy that you know. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? Sometimes just sit if you have an ancestral altar, or even if you don't. If you know this person like to go to the beach, go to the beach. Sit at the shore and talk. If you know they had a favorite tree they used to sit under, or they like to garden, or they like whatever it is that they like to do, and you can connect with that, go in those spaces and connect with that person, right? I have someone here. These ancestors got a sense of humor. I have someone here saying to me, Simone, remember when I came to you in the soca party?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? Then of course you have to handle that energy. But some of them, they like to party. You have a party for them. Turn on the music. Pull out some rum or gin or vodka or whatever. I mean, you don't get stupidly drunk, but play their music and set up a plate of food for them, and see what happens to
Mm-hmm.
you. And ask questions in those spaces too. I'm going in for a loan tomorrow. I'm meeting the mortgage people. Help me to know what to say, how to answer the questions, what paperwork to bring in. Tell me what the expectations are. And understanding what your love language is, you would know when you get that response.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could come in a phone call from a friend telling you, last week I went in for my mortgage thing and they asked me this and they asked me that and they did, and you getting all of the answers to your questions. Am I making sense?
Yes,
You must be
100%.
able to, yes, you must be able to pick up those cues as to when they're talking to you, listening to the radio. And you may have asked about, when is the right time to plant something or do something. And on the radio, you will hear a discussion about that topic. Come on, man. We have to stop being lazy with our spirituality and expect everything to just fall in our laps. You got to do the work. And part of the work is trusting the process. No, I'm not dissing anybody's religious beliefs, but this is not a space of going in a box and talking to someone behind some checkered something, and telling them your sins, or going and recite a prayer for 2 minutes and then expect everything to be forgiven. In these spaces, you got to work.
Right. Sometimes when I work with people, I suggest, for example, that, if we were just to maybe at the end of the week, you
Mhm.
know, just reflect on what type of messages, or like if there was a theme for that week, what would it be? You know, or if it was a theme for the day or a theme for the month, what
Yes.
would that theme be? Was it something that someone else said? Was it something that we read or saw? Was it a direction that we felt pulled in?
Mhm.
I mean, to your point, there are just so many ways of receiving messages that I just feel like we just overcomplicate everything
Yes.
when it's not complicated at all. It is not complicated. It's
Correct.
just simple, you know. And you know, on my own, in my own personal life, my own journey, I just I just don't think too much about a lot of things. I just go with
Hmm.
inspiration that comes to me, and that's it. You know, I
Yeah.
just follow how I feel guided, and for me, it just worked so well. But
Yeah.
but it's not thinking and then overthinking, then thinking this way and then thinking that way. It's just moving in a direction,
Yeah.
you know.
And then,
And
okay, oh, I could be wrong. I hear that a lot. Oh, suppose I do it wrong. Do what wrong? What you gonna be doing wrong? I ain't sending you up there to do no rituals or no big set of spells. All I'm sending you to do is to create this love affair again with your ancestors, right? And just have that connection with them. I have another spiritual daughter. I spent some time with her when I was away recently. And she said to me, she says, you know, since you've been here, everything is just heightened. She's like, I'm hearing more, Simone. I'm hearing more. I'm hearing more. And then she comes back. She says, well, you're gone. I'm not hearing as much. I said, well, you got to figure out why. Because it can't just operate when my energy is in your space. It has to operate when I'm not there. But you know, Baba, as we as spiritualists and as medium and intuitive folks, we go into certain people's spaces and then everything gets heightened for them, right? But I tell people that's all fine and dandy, but you also have to have that energy flowing with you when an elder is not present. And that is where you got to push and do some extra work with yourself to make that happen. People ask me, well, how many times do you sit at your altar? I says, well, some mornings I do, some mornings I don't, because I get up and I speak to my ancestors like if they're actually there. You know, I'm like I would say, well, what we gonna have for breakfast as I going into the kitchen, you know, preparing myself for my day. And I'm even more at a heightened state now because I'm preparing myself for this retreat that I'm having in May here in Barbados called Sacred Conversations with Our Ancestors. I mean, man, I've had to tell some of the participants who have signed up and come in, I've had to tell their ancestors, listen, we only 2 months out. You can't be rolling up in here with me so early. You know, I'm like, wait, they're coming. They're paying their money.
right,
You know, they're going to be here. So
okay,
give me a minute, please. We can't, and I'm already seeing them and I'm already feeling them. And I'm, you know, and they're so excited and ready because now they're going to be in a space where their information is going to be channeled correctly. Along, you know, I'm going to be there with Ia Ife Michelle and Ia Josephine Mackey. I mean, two amazing spiritualists, you know, so you can imagine just having three of us in there and these ancestors rolling up. It's going to be some powerful work, you know.
well,
And yeah, Josephine is going to be joining us for the first time, and she was there as a participant in October. Spirit came to me and was like, "You asked for help. There's your help right there." I'm pointed to her, and then I consulted with Ia Ife. She was like, "Yes," you know.
well.
So
So yeah, I'd like you to answer this question here, and then I would like you to
sure,
go back and talk about the retreat a little bit more and the
yeah,
workshop coming up. All right. So then the question from B Vanessa is, do you have to clean yourself up spiritually?
you should.
Okay.
Spiritual hygiene is important, right? It not only incorporates cleaning yourself physically, in terms of if you smoke yourself out, you smoke your space out, you do your bush baths, but it's also what you eat, what you take into your system, and it's also your thoughts. When people think about cleaning themselves spiritually, The first thing they come with is smudging. I long for the day when we just let sage go to its, And I know somebody up there is just like, oh my gosh, she's so full of herself. No, give sage back to the indigenous people, please.
Mm-hmm.
But spiritually cleaning yourself also incorporates what you eat, what you drink. Don't come telling me you smoking weed and you having a spiritual experience. Don't
Mm-hmm.
come to me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we're going to talk about plant medicine, right? That's a whole different experience. You understand? But yes, spiritually, you should clean yourself. You should take your bush baths. You can, use your herbs to, smoke yourself out, or your incense to smoke yourself out. But also know that spiritual hygiene incorporates what you eat and your thoughts, your mind, what you put out there, what you speak as well, and put out there into the universe. That could alter things as well. So yes, I see too much.
Well, I love that. That's an excellent point about your thoughts,
Yeah,
because as you said recently in one of your posts on social media, people are always looking for external things.
yeah.
But like you said, the thoughts are something people don't think about, or what we eat or drink.
Yes.
So I just have one or two more questions. So then, so you mentioned in this upcoming workshop that is on Thursday, and to sign up for her website, you could go to her website. I'll share the link again. Um, is you're going to be talking to people about how they would strengthen these natural clears. I don't want you to give away like your workshop, which you'll cover in the workshop, but could you give like one tip um, for someone about how they might develop one particular?
Trust. The main thing is trusting your intuition.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Trusting your intuition. I mean, we will go into the rest, but that's the main thing. You have to trust your intuition, and what you are experiencing is real, right? And not tricks. Yes, we know we have spirits out there that like to do a thing. However, you will get to a stage once you start trusting your intuition to differentiate what is, your mind, versus what, your ancestors, your spirit guides are trying to tell you. You have to trust that intuition. And I went through, listen, you can't tell me anything about your spiritual journey that I have not been through. Right? I told one of my young ladies the other day, I said, y'all having these spiritual experiences? I said, I have yet to hear any story that's blowing my mind. I know, Bob, I'm terrible. But it's the truth. It's the truth. You ain't tell me anything yet that I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. No. Trust your intuition. Trust what you're feeling and seeing. Then if you have if you're not sure, you have an elder, reach out to that person that you trust, of course, and ask the question to be wise. But the first thing is to trust that intuition. Then we could go into, to be able to discern things. Then we will go into, interpretation of these things, interpretation of symbols, interpretation of colors, right? That you may see, interpretation of sounds that you may hear, right? In the early part of my journey, I was always hearing drums, drums. I'm like, listen, before I got to Africa, I was in Africa like several times a month, spiritually, right? So even when I got there to do my initiation, people were asking me, well, how did you feel when you got off the plane? Like, I felt like I got up the morning, went to work, and came back home. I just felt like I had been there so many times spiritually. It felt normal to me. Right? So we're gonna, depend. I mean, it's only 90 minutes. We're probably gonna go over a little bit, not too much. But yeah. Intuition.
Good. So here's another question we have. Someone just, let me see, he's asking what herbs you recommend for a spiritual bath.
Okay. So listen, you go, so you could pick anything. It could be a bath, right? Start with what is in your kitchen. Start with what you use to season your meats, to season your rice, your thyme, your parsley, your bay leaf, cinnamon, allspice, clove. Look up the spiritual meaning of these herbs and spices and root, ginger, turmeric, right? And let spirit speak to you as to what it is that you need to put in your bath. So, going back to, and I'm giving away a little things about what we do, but for the retreat, that's what we do. I lay out a table full of herbs and spices and roots. And I put the name of it, and I tell you to intuitively allow spirit to have you pick what it is for your bath. Because part of the retreat, you have a spiritual bath, a bush bath, I like to call it. And then later on, we discuss why it is spirit asks you to pick these herbs based on the meaning, the spiritual meaning of the herbs and what it will do for you. What is the intentions? Right? So start with your kitchen. Lay out all the herbs on your counter and let spirit tell you what you should pick for that bath. And then go and research what each herb means. And spirit will be telling you what it is that you need. If you go and you pick ginger, bay leaf, allspice, clove, that might be money. If you pick salt, orange, lemon, lime, that means you need to clean yourself. Right? So, yeah.
Well, all right. So again, for those that, if you're joining it late, her retreat is on March 9th. Not her retreat. The workshop is on March 9th. And then when is the retreat? Could you tell us about what people can expect at the retreat? I know you said you had 2 spots left. What can people expect?
Yeah, someone took a spot like an hour before we came live. I'm grateful that the ancestors have seen it fit for me to be doing this kind of work. And you know what I mean, Baba.
Mhm.
Because there are some days that I just sit and be like, are y'all sure I'm supposed to be doing this? Like, I was the young girl who used to put on a mini skirt and wind down low in a soca party in Brooklyn. Are y'all sure? And they dismiss me and be like, we don't have time for you and your rants. But this is the work that you have to do, right? So we get all serious again. And so sacred conversations with our ancestors was put in my lap, right? This is what you have to do. And we started off, my first one was in May last year, here in Barbados, where I was born. So it makes sense. And we stay at a resort on facing the Atlantic Ocean. And there's a reason for that. Because if you sail from Barbados on the East Coast across the Atlantic Ocean, you can hit Africa without seeing or touching any landmass. So just imagine the sort of energy that you'll be pulling from while you're there at this retreat for 4 days. So the focus is ancestral veneration. The focus is paying tribute to your ancestors and that connection, what that is going to look like for you, right? So we have a series is for this year is going to be May 4th to 8th. You come in on the Thursday and you leave the Monday. So, during that time you're here with us, first we clean you up. Yeah. We give you a bush bath where I described before, where you pick the herbs and you prepare your own bath. We teach you how to prepare your bath, right? And you prepare your own bath and we wash you up. Then we anoint you with some oil and then we put you out in the back of the resort and we smoke you out. During these processes, Spirit is talking through myself, Ia Ife Michelle, and also Ia Josephine to give us the messages that are there for you as we clean you up. Right? Then we have 2 workshops, one on mental health and spirituality, because we realize there's a thin line there And that workshop is done by Ife Michelle, because she's a licensed mental health therapist and she is also a Lukumi priestess, right? And then we have the workshop with me where we talk about the herbs that you pick. We talk about ancestral veneration and we get into all that. Then we have where we take a walk to the beach, followed behind me ringing the bell and a set of drummers, and we go and we give our offerings to the ocean. And you stay there while at the ocean. You do your prayers, you do your supplication, you give thanks, you show gratitude. And that is a moment in itself that is very moving for many, because this is the time now you're at the water and you're not only paying homage to the ancestors, but to the ones that buried in that ocean, the ones that you didn't know, right? That did not survive. We're honoring them too, and then after that, we have a sit down session of what next. And that session will be led by Ia Josephine. We've incorporated that one this time around because we realized when some folks get back, it was a little rocky for them in trying to, work with the energy that they left with. So we decided to add that session, and Ia Josephine is going to lead that in discussion as what happened next when you go back. But also while there, we have a little downtime where we go to the west coast of the island. And, you can take in the water there because where we're staying, the water is too rough for you to actually go in and enjoy it. So we go over to the East Coast and there you can go and swim and hang out. And then when the sun goes down, because we're on the West Coast, we do a sunset meditation, right? So there's no alcohol. We don't get lit. We don't go bar hopping. None of those. So don't come asking me where's the nearest bar and restaurant, because that don't happen. And you wear all white. Mm-hmm. From the time you leave your home to get on that plane to the time you go back. Throughout the entire session, even when you put your swimsuit on, you're in all white. And there's a reason for that, as you would know, Baba. Colors attract attention. Mm-hmm. Right? So Spirit said to me, everybody in all white, including me. I have a dress for every day, all white pants, knickers, everything. Right? So, and we need some men to come out and really, we just having a bunch of women, coming in here and rolling out and doing the work. And, the men can come too. Mm-hmm. Don't be scared. I'll bathe you. You'll be all right.
So great. Well, I'll put the word out and hope to make it to one of your retreats. So I want to ask you this question. I like to, because we're almost at closing. I want to ask you this question, and I'd love to ask this question. What are your words to people who feel like down and out right now, or who feel like overwhelmed, who feel like they can't find their purpose in life? What message of encouragement would you give to them?
Be still. Mm-hmm. Get still. Get quiet. Sit down. Sit down. Take a shower. Take a bath. Stay in a cool place. Light some incense or burn an intentional candle or a scented candle that will ease you, and sit down. And talk. And ask, what happens to me next? Even put a clear glass of water. Somebody says, Simone, you forget the water. Put a clear glass of water and talk. Say what is wrong. Ask for guidance. Ask for help. Talk. Listen. Pay attention. Relax. Get off the cell phone. Get off the social media. You ain't gonna fight like just be still. Try and still your mind. Then ask yourself some questions. Do I need therapy? Do I need to get a reading? Do I need a life coach? I don't know if you realize this, but there's been a shift too in people booking. A lot of folks since this pandemic ain't putting up with no 9 to 5 um, burning them out,
Mm-hmm.
Folks are walking off of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks notice, because it's all about self-care, right? And they realize at the drop of a hat, you could just drop me and the government got to take care of me with a stimulus check, right? So be still, take a deep breath, and see where you need, if you think you need it, to get extra help. Whether is you may need to sign up for therapy, maybe you need to get a life coach, maybe you need to talk to your pastor or your preacher or a reverend or your spiritualist and do a sit down reading. And be intentional with making sure that you are ready for the change, and be disciplined and consistent with the work that will bring about the change, right? Listen, and I know you're gonna laugh again. I raise my prices,
You raise your prices.
I raise
Okay, tell us why.
political. I know people looking at me like this spiritualist, she's out of control. No, listen here. First of all, I got a raise, right? Because of the work that I'm putting out. My work is no joke. And when I say that, I mean in terms of the help that I'm bringing to people, and they're seeing results, right? That's the key thing. But not only that, I realized people were coming to me with the same issue over and over and over again. You coming to me with the same thing for 2 years? No way. So instead of me having to have a stern conversation with you, which I know going to go in one ear. All right. You understand?
Yes.
So now it has narrowed down to people who are doing the work, and they're seeing the results. They're not only seeing the results and the change in their life physically, but they're seeing the results and the change in their pockets, because people getting raises, people getting new jobs with more money, people's businesses are turning around, right? So yeah, I have decided moving forward that I am working with people who are dedicated to improving themselves. If after a certain time, and I've told people that I think you need to go and talk with somebody else, because we're working together all this time and it ain't working. I know that has nothing to do with my work. I just feel that we need to be really honest with some of our clients, and not only drain ourselves. Yes, they're gonna pay us, but then I'm leaving you and I don't have enough energy for the next person who's doing the work. I need me to be like, all my cylinders firing. So yeah.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. And so I will remind people of your upcoming workshop and the upcoming retreat. So thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Mama James. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being committed to sitting in these spaces with myself and with other spiritualists, and with your clients and people that you help. Trust and believe, and I know you know this already. Your work is being seen, and the things that you are praying and working towards, the folks on the other side are working on your behalf to make those things happen. So do never ever give up hope. It is going to happen. That's my for you.
Thank you so much. We'll continue this conversation. We'll have you back on again. One day soon, I'll have you on with Ia Michelle and your little posse. So bring some multiple energies in at once.
I
We'll
know.
do it soon. Yes.
I know. Thank you so much, and all the best. Take care.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye, everyone.